We are happy to welcome the newly elected president of the Buffalo Common Council here to the studio, Chris Scanlon. We thank you so much for coming in tonight. What a busy week for you. So let me ask you, what's on the top of your agenda here?
Right at the top of the agenda is to continue to do what I've been doing, what the council's been doing, is to try and continue to improve the lives of the residents of the city of Buffalo. You know, if you pursue one of these positions, elected office or a leadership within a legislative body, something like that, I think the first charge every morning has to be, how are you going to improve the lives of the people that elected you to be there?
Okay, give me something specific, because I was thinking about this today. If I all of a sudden had the power, one of the things I would do is I would change the street light out here in front of the station, and I would make it a blinking light in front of Tops here. That's a little tiny thing, but maybe there's a big thing that you want, something concrete.
Yeah, there's a lot of that little quality of life stuff you can continue to do, but large scale, you know, first and foremost, I want to sit down with my colleagues on the council and start having conversations about our budget and our financial situation. You know, there's concerns about down the road a couple of years, whether we might have some hard years, and we got to start addressing that now instead of looking way down the road to try and do it. So that's one of the first things I want to try and do.
Okay, Councilmember Rasheed Wyatt was the only council member to vote against your presidency. And he said he's a nice guy, but he said he was concerned that you were too close to the mayor, Mayor Brown. We've heard that from other people as well. How do you plan to maintain your independence from City Hall, from the mayor's office?
Yeah, as you mentioned, you've heard that from other people, and I've heard that in the past, but I don't see how the ability to build relationships is a negative. I think that should be a positive in this type of work, and I don't think that collaboration is the enemy of independence. I think that they're not mutually exclusive. You can be both. I think that working together, working on behalf of the citizens of Buffalo, by working together and collaborating, you can actually get more done. I can tell you right now, there's been times throughout my tenure that I've absolutely put my foot down and said, well, I'm not going to stand for that as the council member of this district and representing the people of the city of Buffalo. And when I have to do that, I will do that. But I think that collaboratively, you can get a lot more done. At the end of the day, we are one entity, the city of Buffalo, and we have to be rowing in the same direction and try and get things done for everyone.
I take it from what you're saying that we may see more collaboration with the mayor on some ideas there. But speaking of the mayor, we're all waiting to hear whether or not he is going to throw his hat in the ring for the congressional seat that Brian Higgins is giving up. If he does that, that opens up the mayor's office. You, as council president, then become interim mayor. Down the road, if, for instance, Mayor Brown is elected to Congress, would you be interested in becoming mayor?
You know, to me, that's so far down the road, honestly. And at this time.
But you must have thought about it.
Yeah, I think if you get into these elected positions, your mind can go a lot of different directions. You know, if do you run for a different legislative body? Do you run for an executive seat? You know, you think about different things at the time, of course. But right now, I'm focused on being the South District Councilman, the president of the Buffalo Common Council. Obviously, as you mentioned, the charter states that if the mayor were to leave or was unable to fulfill his duties for one reason or another, you have to be prepared to step in and be the interim mayor. And I think anyone that is willing to take on the responsibility of president of the Common Council has to know that on day one that that's a possibility. So I'm prepared for it if it should happen, absolutely, but it's not something that I'm focused on right now at all.
Okay. You know, your father, your dad, was very close with Mayor Griffin. You grew up watching that relationship. How do you think that influenced you in terms of being a public servant?
First and foremost, I think it helped me to the best of my ability. I'm obviously a different person than my father, but helped me to the best of my ability not try and burn any bridges. And, you know, I talked about being a collaborator. I think that's one of the things I learned from him, was try not to burn bridges. You know, you can disagree, and that's fine, but move on, turn the page. You're going to agree some days, you're not going to agree others, but make sure you don't burn that bridge and maintain those relationships. And that's what I'm talking about continuing to try and build relationships through the time I've been in office.
We have very little time left. I do want to ask you about one concrete item that the council has already taken some action on, and that is about fluoride in the city of Buffalo's water. It's been almost 10 years. It's been since 2015 since there's been fluoride in the city of Buffalo water. What do you see happening there?
Well, it's not what I want to see happen, it's what has to happen. It has to be added back to the water immediately. as soon as it can possibly be done. Obviously, there would be a physical infrastructure project that might take place there to get that back in, something to that extent, but it has to happen right away. You know, we talked about this yesterday during our community development meeting, and during that meeting, I instructed our staff to draft a letter to go to the head of the water board immediately, and we sent that out yesterday afternoon from all 9 council members asking for an immediate update on where that stands, because it has to be implemented immediately. You know, it's a public health issue, and you're talking about 9 years of people, but also children, not having fluoride in the water and any potential adverse effects that might result from that. And not only the people who go to the dentist and find this out, but as we were having conversations yesterday, you're talking about what about the people that can't afford to go to a dentist and don't have that first line of defense. So it's imperative that it's added back immediately.
Chris Scanlon, we appreciate your time very much. We hope that you will come back.
Whenever.
And we'll talk about more issues that are facing the city of Buffalo.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations
Thank you.
to you.
I appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks.
you.